Howdy Hexers, I'm Mokog, welcome to Hex Hunter. Today we're going to talk about Vennen lore. The Vennen themselves are a really cool race, and they're being featured here in Set 3, Armies of Myth for Hex. And I think it's a really good idea to delve a little bit into some of the origins and the lore of the Vennen so that we have an understanding and a little bit more information and context for how these cards end up playing out in the game. And so let's go ahead and let's take a look at some of the awesome Vennen. So Vennen themselves are a hybrid of orcs and spiders that were created by Xen'toth, and Xen'toth herself is known as the Spider Mother. Not really a Spider Queen, but a Spider Mother. She's also known as the Queen of Eyes, and she's also the primal of blood magic. So, one thing to remember, the Vennen, they're not neutral, they are utterly evil, and they're utterly evil by design. They're cruel fiends infused with an all-consuming sadism. And Xen'toth serves as the object of worship for all of their religious rituals. And generally, the Vennen just seek to persecute anyone that they consider a heretic. And as being masters of blood magic, they use that to inflict as much pain on the world and the blasphemers that populate it, which happens to be pretty much all living creatures. Now, on top of that though, they have a special reserve, an exceptional hatred for orcs. And if the Vennen themselves could be said to have any single goal other than persecuting heretics, it really would be to wipe orcs off the face of Entrath. Now, Vennens themselves, they do have a pretty detailed origin. So roughly, as per the website, about 200,000 years ago, I like how it's like 200,000 years ago, so it's not like they were there at the beginning, but they were created a while ago. An orc raiding party went exploring into a set of caverns and came across a giant pool, an enormous lake of blood. And being outraged at the presence of these surface world intruders, Xen'toth captured the entire contingent, consumed them, and then began laying hundreds of eggs. And when those eggs hatched, that's where the first Vennen came from. So one thing to note about the Vennen, they're all male. They tend to call themselves brothers. So Xen'toth consumed the orcs, popped out a bunch of eggs, and out come out the Vennen, and the Vennen go and absolutely hate orcs. Maybe it's because they like spiders more than they like their orcish side? Don't quite know, but we do know that they really hate orcs. So one of the other really interesting stories, since we have an understanding of like where they physically came from, they also have a lot of origin stories around them. A lot of these come from this thing called the Arachnonomicon. So this is basically the holy book of the Vennen, and they have a creation myth surrounding how everything was made, and it's actually really interesting. So the biggest focus they have is on this lake of blood, and it lies at the bottom of Mazot crater. For it to be formed, they say that the blood of Zum the Weaver, who created all of existence by weaving the stars in the sky and the stone of the ground, is the source of that pool. And when Zum was finished weaving all of reality, she pierced herself with her own leg, and the blood from the wound flooded the world and kept it submerged for 8,000 years. And then eventually the tides of the Weaver's blood ebbed, and what remained of that flood exists in the crater as the Lake of Blood. In addition to that, the Arachnomicon says that the crater, like all of Entrath, was woven exactly as it is today. So the Arachnomicon says that the crater, like Entrath, was created by Zum the Weaver exactly as it's supposed to be. So we kind of have an idea of where the Vennen come from. Now, they do have a society aspect. And, if you're going to have an organized religion, you definitely have things broken up. So really, the most important organization for the Vennen society is the Grand Inquisition. And their purpose is to be a council of Vennen inquisitors who purposefully go out and find the blasphemers against the Spider Mother. Now, aside from the Grand Inquisition is also the Council of the Silken Thread. This is a sect of mages whose sole purpose is interaction with the Underworld Alliance. Their purpose is to do that negotiation and interaction between each of the members so that the Grand Inquisition doesn't have to particularly deal with them, so that they don't have to directly dirty their hands. Yeah, they've got hands. To dirty their hands with the blasphemers, so to speak, the necessary blasphemers. But in addition to the Council of the Silken Thread and the Grand Inquisition, there's another sect that we have featured in set 3, and this is the Azure Fang. So the Azure Fang is kind of an outlier clan of Vennen, and they believe that any tactic, even those that are considered profane, is acceptable as long as it's done in the service of the Spider Mother. And specifically, they believe the use of hexing gems can be used to take out more of the heretics and blasphemers more quickly, and especially sapphire gems. So they're huge advocates of sapphire gems, and they want as many Vennen who are capable working with sapphire gems to further the goals of the Spider Mother. So the Vennen themselves have a long history, and we don't know everything yet, but we do know some of the recent history that is relevant to the time period surrounding Armies of Myth. So we do know some basics, that it was about 300 years ago that the Necrotic came to the Vennen and enticed them to join the Alliance. And the big push for the Vennen to join the Alliance was the idea of the underworld incursion. It looked like a perfect opportunity to come up from the ground and kill as many orcs as possible. So the Vennen were in for the orc genocide primarily. So when the underworld incursion itself actually happened, a huge global war erupted. The surface races were initially taken by surprise, and they had to rally together to form the Arden Alliance. And initially, the underworld looked very poised, especially after some strategic victories, to defeat the surface races. What ended up occurring that set things to a more neutral position was the primal for the elves, Oberon, turned himself into a huge force of nature and pushed back a huge bulk of the underworld armies, and that kind of forced it into a stalemate where the underworld couldn't get through that force of nature without losing too much of their resources, and the Arden Alliance couldn't push down to go finish the Underworld Alliance without losing too many of their own scant resources that were remaining. Presently, the Vennen are just looking for any opportunities to strike out at enemies. So we don't know all the webs that they're weaving right now, but we do know that they continue to burn with a savage hatred for orcs and for everything that is not honoring the Spider Mother. And I really think we see this a lot in game. I think this is a big crux of the spiders mechanic. The idea of laying eggs in one of the opponent's deck and then having the young spiders come forth, having them actually being a bane mechanic, those kinds of things, the web mechanics, the ideas of constriction and holding, they're very flavorful for the Vennen, and I think it really helps when you put that in context of their story to understand that they are very much a calculating sort of race. They're a methodical, organized sort of race, and I think it helps bring a little bit more of a spiciness to how they end up playing and how they currently interact in Armies of Myth. If you enjoyed what you watched today, follow the channel. If you want to learn more about Hex, go ahead and check us out at 5shards.com for even more stuff from the Hex community. And as always, I'm Mokog, this is Hex Hunter, and keep being awesome.